These are the 7 worst mistakes you can make when recording guitar at home and how to fix them so that you can get the best possible sound for your music. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Andy Negative. I've written music for over 20 years, recorded hundreds of songs, and have over 100,000 streams. In the process, I've made tons of mistakes, and I'm going to show you what not to do so that you can get to work making your best music.
I don't know about you, but my nipples right now could cut through glass.
First is setting up your guitar. I was brought down by a label to record at a studio once, but we had to travel 10 hours in the middle of summer to get there, meaning the guitars were sitting in intense heat for a long time. When we finally went to record, the neck of one of the guitars had warped, and we needed to tune every fret to record parts. It was a massive waste of time, and it showed me the importance of setting up a guitar, or basically ensuring the guitar is in tune with itself. You do this by adjusting the tension on the truss rod and adjusting the string height from the neck. You can learn to do a DIY setup on YouTube with a few tools, or you can take your guitar to the tech at your local guitar shop. But make sure you let them know what tuning your guitar is in. Otherwise, it will cause problems if you're not in standard tuning. Setting up your guitar with new strings every time you go to record means that you'll get the best possible performance from your instrument. Now that your guitar is in tip-top shape, we can start setting up your recording session. In the early days of my career, I would open a default session in Audacity and start recording willy-nilly. I was in a hurry and didn't care about organization. But then Audacity crashed and I had to rebuild a session. I had no idea what anything was, none of it lined up, and I had to rebounce everything into different file types. I learned that you have to observe some industry standards for file formatting. First, you should set your session defaults to 44.1 kilohertz sample rate and 24-bit resolution. Most recorded music is mastered down to 44.1 kilohertz and 16-bit, but the extra depth captures slightly better sound quality. You can record higher if you're looking for audiophile sound levels, but this is good enough for punk rock. Second, you need to label all your tracks. I know it isn't sexy or exciting. Still, organization is critical, especially if you plan on sending your tracks off for mixing. If you send over 30 tracks labeled Audio 1, the mix engineer will block your number after getting out of the hospital from the massive coronary you gave them. Now that your session is set up, we must get the best possible signal into your computer. Before I got my first interface, there was no way to plug my guitar into the computer, so I got creative. I ran a 1/4-inch cable out of the headphone jack of my amp into a 1/4 to 1/8 inch adapter and plugged that into the sound card on my computer. It sounded like this. It's vital to get the best sounding signal from your guitar so that you have options when it comes time to mix. First, you need to take a clean DI signal from your guitar. It might seem pointless if you're recording an amp, but if you have the clean signal, you can reamp the performance through other amps or run it through any number of awesome amp sims. There are 2 ways to do this. Most interfaces have a line level guitar input that you can plug into, or you can use a direct box like this. The benefit of the DI box is that you can split the signal off to an amp. They also record a bit cleaner than some interfaces because they convert the signal to mic level and connect with an XLR, but either works. Inside your DAW, you want to set the input gain on your channel so that the peaks are hitting around -6 dB. A great way to test this is to palm mute on your guitar. This pushes the strings closer to the pickup, making the signal from the guitar louder. If a few peaks go over -6, it's not a big deal, but if your track looks like this, it's gonna sound awful. Okay, you're plugged in and have good levels, so we can finally start recording. Well, almost. My very first band had squirreled away a bit of money and decided that we were going to record a demo. On the first day of recording, the drummer decided that he knew the songs well enough to play them all the way through. When the producer asked him what tempo the songs were, he said he didn't need a click track. Everything was fine. Until he made a mistake. We had limited time, and instead of replaying the whole song, the producer made him punch in on a section. He couldn't find the same tempo, and to this day, I can still hear the out-of-time stick clicks and train wreck edit that the producer made to salvage the track. You need to play to a click. I don't care if the metronome stops you from feeling the groove. Quit your belly aching and play with a metronome. It will make you a better musician and save you time when you inevitably have to punch in on that one guitar riff 420 times. If you're really feeling stuck stuck with your recording and your songwriting and you're not sure what to do, check the description for a link where you can reach out to me and we can book a one-on-one coaching call where I can help you work through your specific problems and we can get your music career on track. Okay, now it's finally time to record, and this is where we want to get your guitar to sound the best it can. I was an assistant engineer on an album once, we were tracking guitars, and the guitar player liked to partake in greener substances, as they do. So when recording the lead track, he was far more preoccupied with finishing it so he could get on with what he liked to call chilling. He did one take, called it done, and was out the door so fast you could still see his smoke outline in the room. When we went to mix, we pulled up the guitar solo, which was out of tune. We didn't have time for him to come back and re-record, so that out-of-tune guitar forever reminds me that you need to tune constantly. Every time you finish a take, tune. Punching in a part? Tune. Think you're tuning too much? Tune. If possible, use the same tuner for all the guitars because all digital tuners have slight differences. There will always be minor tuning discrepancies, but the closer you are, the better. As an added step, you want to avoid string noise caused by vibrations, especially when recording lead parts. There are many different fret wraps you can buy to achieve this, but if you want to save money, the DIY trick that many guitarists use is to put some rolled toilet paper behind the nut of your guitar. This will dampen the out-of-tune vibrations from the unused strings, giving you a spanky clean guitar take. You could also go the Metallica route and tape down strings. Whatever works.
It's the worst piece of shit we've ever done, and it's not leaving this room.
Now you've got your guitar parts recorded and you're happy with them. It's time to do it all over again. I was producing a song for a band and the guitar player was adamant that he wanted to use his tiny 15-watt amp. It was his signature tone. No big deal. When I asked him to double track the recording, he said they didn't have two lab guitars, so there was no reason to have two guitars in the recording. The logic is sound. The only problem is a mono guitar source means it's taking up the center of the sonic field. This makes everything muddy. It's not great. Luckily, I was smart enough to run a DI box. I faked the idea of double guitars through clever editing and recreating the amp's sound with an amp sim. Double your guitars if you want your music to sound wide and professional. And if possible, record the double with a different sound. That could be another guitar or a different amp tone, but even if you only have one guitar, using another pickup is a great idea. The brain has a funny way of tricking itself into thinking that sounds are thicker when the timbre on the left and right are different. Remember to reset your levels though, because the neck pickup usually has a lower output than the bridge pickup.
I bought a shark guitar that's shaped like a shark. I bought a guitar that's shaped like a shark.
You want to start that from the beginning?
Okay. I went online.
You've done it! Your guitars are recorded, double-tracked, in tune, and they sound incredible. There's only one thing left to do. For the anniversary of one of my older songs, I decided to remix and re-release it. Simple enough. I had more years of mixing experience, and a remix would take little effort. I dragged the audio files into the session, dropped them in, and the next thing I knew, I was in a waking nightmare. None of the audio files lined up. The drums, guitar solo, and backup vocals all started at the same time. It was a mess. A less experienced Andy had clipped all of the regions to clean up the session, but had left them like that when he bounced them out. This meant I spent hours lining up every audio file by the sample. Not fun. Whether you plan on having someone else mix your song, you send the guitars for reamping, or decide 10 years later you want to do a remix, you must export your session correctly. Make sure you label your tracks. Make sure you crossfade and flatten all edits and cuts so there are no weird clicks or pops. And make sure that you set the start and end time for every track to the same marker. I can't even begin to describe the massive headache this will save you in the long run. Now your guitars are ready for mixing. If you need a great guitar tone, check out this video where I break down one of the best free amp modelers on the market.